Hi reception, it's me again, Mrs. Hancox, and today we're on day 4 of our favourite 5 for this week. I'm wondering if you can remember what our book is called. That's right, it's The Dinosaur That Pooped the Planet by Tom Fletcher and Dougie Poynter. And today we're going to read it again and see if you can use some of the language that Mrs. Lowen was talking about yesterday. Now we're going to have a little bit of a closer look at the book again today. The Dinosaur That Pooped the Planet. Danny and Dinosaur liked to have fun. Some days they had lots, and some days they had none. How do you think? The Dinosaur That Pooped the Planet. Danny and Dinosaur liked to have fun. Some days they had lots, and some days they had none. What do you think Danny is being when he plays with the dinosaur? Yeah, I think he's being quite brave. One day they were bored. They had no games to play. Danny said, "Dinosaur, what shall we do today? We could mow the lawn, or we could tidy the place. We could do our chores, or we could go to space." How are Danny and the dinosaur feeling? They look a little bit fed up to me. But you mustn't forget to have lunch, said their mummy. You cannot have fun without food in your tummy. So they packed up a lunch for the Science Museum, where rockets were kept if you went to see them. There were hundreds of rockets and spaceship surprises, tall ones and small ones of all shapes and sizes, and one that was ready to launch with a door, big enough for a boy and his pet dinosaur. How many different rockets can you see? I can see absolutely oodles of rockets. They ignored all the warnings. They couldn't care less. They pressed all the things that they should not have pressed. T minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition! They started their intergalactic space mission. What do you think Danny and the dinosaur are being? A little bit reckless, aren't they? But I bet they're going to have fun. They flew higher than houses and buildings and cranes, much higher than birds, even higher than planes. We're in space, Danny yelled as they floated around, but the dinosaur's tongue made a rumbling sound. How is the dinosaur feeling now? I think he's feeling starving. Is it time to have lunch, Danny? He looked at his watch. Then he looked all around for the dino's lunchbox. Danny started to worry. Then he started to panic. They'd left their packed lunches back home on their planet. Oh dear, how's Danny feeling? He realises he's left their lunchboxes at home. Definitely quite panicked now. So with no food on board, not the smallest of crumbs, a disastrous dinosaur feast had begun. It gobbled up gadgets and gizmos galore. Nothing was safe from the space dinosaur. Robots and ray guns and blinking red blinkers, eating things up. Eating things thought up by NASA's great thinkers. The hyperdrive gamma reactor machine was swallowed along with the space tractor beam. Oh, dearie me. It chewed and it chomped on the spaceship controls. The rocket was dotted with dino tooth holes. Inside it was bare. The spaceship was empty. Outside there were more things to eat. There was plenty. It broke down the door with a cool ninja chop. Out in space, dinosaurs are much harder to stop. What is the dinosaur being now? I think he's being incredibly greedy. It chomped on the moon like a big chunk of cheese and then shoved even more in its mouth with a squeeze. It munched on the Martians from Mars and their cats. Their cats are like ours, but their cats wear cool hats. Satellites, Saturn and 6 supernovas, shape-shifting saucers and 7 space rovers. It guzzled 5 gallons of fuel from the tank and Danny's jaw dropped as he watched what it drank. With a crunch and a crack and a nom 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 nom, in one dino gulp their rocket was gone. Nothing was left. All Danny could see was a fat dinosaur where the rocket should be. And so they were stranded with no way back home, just Danny and Dino, and all space, all alone. And look at that dinosaur's tummy. It's absolutely ginormous. But now Danny was crying. He cried and he cried. He cried and his tears filled his spacesuit inside. How do you think that Danny is feeling about being stuck in space? I think you're right. He's miserable. He's so upset, isn't he? But unless they were going to stay there forever, the dinosaur needed to do something clever. With the feeling of guilt deep down in his gut, its brain brewed a plan that was involving his butt. It knew there was only one thing he could do to get them back home. It needed to poo! That's right. Oh dear. Like a poop-powered rocket, the dinosaur flew. Dan hopped on its back and he watched as it pooed. It pooed out the robots and ray guns and blinkers, the things that NASA's thinkers thought up were now stinkers. It pooped out the moon and it pooped out the stars. It pooped the space rovers and the Martians from Mars. When Danny looked back, he could see a poop trail from far out in space to the dinosaur's tail. They headed for Earth and they started to orbit. It pooped out the clouds, but the clouds just absorbed it. What do you think of all that poo? Absolutely revolting. They flew past the buildings and streets of their town, leaving the houses all smelly and brown. And finally, they landed back down on the ground. Hooray, cried Danny. We are home, safe and sound. How do you think Danny's feeling about being home? Yes, pretty relieved. They looked to the sky and the things that were pooped had formed a poop planet right next to the moon. So Danny promised to listen to Mummy, because fun is not funny without food in your tummy. And just when you thought all that pooping was done, a Mars cat plopped out of the dinosaur's bum. And how did you feel when you saw that cat plop out of the dinosaur's bum? Were you quite surprised? I certainly was. I hope you've enjoyed our story this week. I certainly have. Bye, reception.